Good evening and thank you for joining us. You're watching News Mongolian World. I'm your host, Abrams Tanks. And for our top stories, new omicron subvariant recorded in Mongolia. A pension reform seminar is being held under the European Union's Technical Assistance and Information Exchange Program. And companies producing exports are struggling with labor shortages. And for the news, stay tuned. The National Center for Communicable Diseases provided the latest updates on COVID-19 status in Mongolia. According to the NCCD, 101 patients are currently undergoing treatment for the new Omicron subvariant infections.
While COVID-19 infection rates are relatively low and in decline, the World Health Organization is keeping an eye on a new COVID-19 variant. The Omicron subvariant XBB.1.16, known as Arcturus, has been listed by WHO as a variant of interest since mid-April. Experts say this variant has a higher transmissibility rate than previous strains, but doesn't appear to be more dangerous. The National Center for Communicable Diseases of Mongolia reports that the number of Arcturus cases increased in May. According to the latest NCCD update, there are 101 patients at their facility currently undergoing treatment for the new subvariant. Epidemiologists have issued a warning emphasizing that the new subvariant is distinct from the Omicron 9 subvariant. After an initial decline in infection rates with fewer than 10 new cases reported daily, there has been a notable increase in the number of COVID-19 infections in the past week.
As part of the European Union's Technical Assistance and Information Exchange Program, a seminar on promoting pension reform is being organized on May 15th through 19th at the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection. Experts from European Union countries are taking part in this seminar to share their experiences and the best practices.
But I think it was a mistake.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Protection has invited experts from Belgium, Lithuania, Poland and Slovenia to participate in the seminar to share their expertise in pension reform. The seminar is being held to provide concrete examples and host discussions on 5 key topics related to pension reform, with a particular focus on the fund management during the transition from a salary-based system to a contribution-based savings system. In January, the cabinet submitted the package of social insurance legislation to the Parliament of Mongolia. According to the parliamentary resolution, it's listed for review during the spring session. Our collaboration with experts from European Union countries is currently underway, and I firmly believe that their experiences will greatly assist us in presenting the package of social insurance laws to Parliament. The social insurance reforms primarily focus on expanding social insurance coverage. Social insurance aims to provide future social security. The goal is to align our social insurance system with international standards and gradually transition from the existing distribution system to a fully funded savings system. If the legislation is approved, pensions will be increased annually in line with the inflation rate. TAIEX is the technical assistance and information exchange instrument of the European Commission. TAIEX supports public administration with regard to the approximation, application and enforcement of European Union legislation and facilitates the sharing of European Union best practices.
What I explained today and tomorrow, it is the way how we coped with a financial constraint, how to fill the system by increasing the number of participants to the pension system, contributors with social contributions. This is what is the cornerstone of our system. If I say what are the parallels in Slovenian and Mongolian, maybe we started from the same point, from the system that was established, and we were all, at least Slovenia, had a lot of socialist heritage in the system. And what we did and continue it in the same way, I think, is to take care for the people and all the time really thinking, reconsidering what would be the best solution to enable the country social security, on the other side economic progress. And on both sides, if we can have the economic progress by external economy, and on the other side, a steady development and coverage for the people that feel secure and they want to live in the country, I think we can reach the goal to have a balance between social and economic. And in the future, of course, we are all countries that are depending also on the other countries, cooperation with other countries. We are not isolated islands. We have to go along with the progress, with societal changes. And I think both countries are able to adapt and find the best solution in time, and what is the most important, to upgrade and revise if necessary.
Mongolia's social insurance system is considered relatively strong on a global scale, as it provides coverage to approximately 85% of the population. In Slovenia, there's a strict requirement of 40 years of contribution for determining pension eligibility. The pension insurance premium rate in Slovenia is 24%, with 15% being paid by the insured. In Mongolia, the premium rate is 17%, with 8.5% paid by the insured and 8.5% by the employer.
Outcomes.
In 2021, Mongolia traded with 159 countries. Mongolia exported over 200 different products to 64 countries. In 2022, Mongolia traded with 160 countries. The latest data shows that 25.6% of enterprises engaged in foreign export are experiencing labor shortages.
According to the National Statistics Office, there are 1,923 companies in Mongolia producing exports, representing only 4.2% of all companies actively operating in Mongolia. 99% of Mongolia's exports are mining products. Of the companies producing exports, only 704 regularly export their products. Over a quarter of exporting companies say they face labor shortages. The majority of companies dealing with workforce challenges are producers of non-mining products. According to the National Statistics Office, workforce deficits in export sectors are 5.8% higher than in non-exporting sectors.
The unemployment rate in the fourth quarter of 2022 was 6.7%. The active labor force has increased by 39.8 thousand people compared to the same period last year. In general, the unemployment rate in Mongolia varies between 5 to 7%.
Analysts say it's possible to decrease workforce deficits if unemployed people are willing to work in sectors with high labor demands. However, employers say some new workers are not able to handle the workload, have poor experience, and aren't willing to work in the provinces. The majority of unemployed people are young and at the active labor age. From an economic perspective, it may seem like a lack of workers, but from a broader perspective, it means the amount of people paying taxes and contributing to state revenue is decreasing. Another issue exporting companies are facing is financing. 90% of exporting companies raise their own financing, and 41% also take out loans.
Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, Batitik, held a meeting with Haja Labib, Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Affairs and Foreign Trade and Federal Cultural Institution of Belgium on May 15 in Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia, and exchanged views on relations and cooperation between the two countries. Ministers of Foreign Affairs Batitik noted the active development of traditional friendly relations between the two countries based on common values of democracy, and emphasized that they will work together to stimulate tourism and people-to-people relations in the future. She expressed her gratitude for the decision to replace the driver's license of Mongolian citizens living and working in Belgium with a Belgian driver's license. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Belgium, Hajjal Labib, expressed her interest in deepening cooperation in the fields of renewable energy and health, and confirmed that she planned to organize consultation meeting between the Ministers of Foreign Affairs as a dialogue mechanism in the first half of next year.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Here's the international news from our partner agencies. The Pentagon says 31 US Abrams tanks have arrived at Grafenwohr Army Base in Germany, where Ukrainian tank crews will soon begin training. The Pentagon says that they are expected to arrive in Ukraine later this year.
Good afternoon.
Over the past few months, U.S. troops have trained more than 8,800 Ukrainians, including on how to use Stryker and Bradley fighting vehicles and M109 Paladins together on the battlefield. The Bradleys and Strykers are armored and armed vehicles used to ferry troops, and the Paladin is a self-propelled howitzer gun.
I can confirm that the 31 M1 Abrams training tanks have arrived at Grafenwohr, Germany, in preparation for subsequent training of Ukrainian tank crews. Those crews are expected to arrive and begin training within the next couple of weeks. As we've discussed previously, this extensive training program for Ukrainian crews and maintainers is intended to prepare them for their critical roles ahead in effectively operating the M1 tank and defending the Ukrainian people.
Against this backdrop, European leaders have promised Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky an arsenal of missiles, tanks and drones during his whirlwind three-day visit to Italy, the Vatican, Germany, France and the UK.
First of all, these tanks are intended specifically for training. Don't necessarily have the capabilities that they would need to go into combat. So the tanks that we will be providing to Ukraine are going through the refurbishment process right now. They will be updated, upgraded, and prepared for exportability to Ukraine. And because we're doing this concurrently, we will be able to provide those tanks to them in the fall timeframe to get them into Ukraine before the end of the year. Good afternoon.
Zelensky sought to replenish Ukraine's depleted weapons supplies ahead of a long-anticipated spring offensive aimed at turning the tide of the war. On another matter, Ryder told reporters Monday that 550 U.S. active duty troops have arrived at the southern border as President Joe Biden faces a key test with the transition away from a key pandemic-era regulation called Title 42. The Department of Homeland Security says the number of migrants encountered at the southern border actually fell 50% during the last 3 days compared with the days leading up to the end of Title 42. But an official of DHS said Monday that it's too early to say why or what this means for the long term. Ryder said another 950 U.S. troops would be arriving at the southern border to assist with immigration by June 5th.
To support CBP.
Well, that's all for today, and thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.